I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for Life in the UK test part 130, the interwar period part 2, by doing wrist training. And if you participate with the wrist training, that is at your own risk. So, in the 1920s, the living conditions got better. But then suddenly in 1929, there was the Great Depression set in, and it lasted for some time. There was the They don't mention anything of it, so I'm now not completely sure if I'm talking about the right thing. But I'm pretty sure it was a stock market crash in 1929, which was the thing that set it all in going. It started it all. And when the Great Depression followed, but it lasted for a few years. So, and they are now saying here, the effects entered the Great Depression, and some parts of the UK suffered mass unemployment. So in some parts of the UK there was mass unemployment. That means that many people did not get work. And if they don't get work, they don't earn money. And if they don't earn money, they can't buy food. And if they can't buy food, they starve. And I think it was what I said in the last part, that the firms... So first, let's take the example of the corn mills again. So all the people are buying of one firm stocks, and we're saying next year we're going to have 2 mills because next year there will be a law changed. Corn will be, it will be possible to import corn very cheaply, and we will have 2 mills running and making wheat instead of just one. Now let's say that law does not come for whatever reason. Maybe the First World War breaks out and the change of Ireland becomes an independent country is postponed to the end of the war. So the second mill is not built because a lot of people have said, we will have next year 2 mills. I will give that firm £100. And now we had taken all that money, the firm, and had built a second mill, because we say we can take all that money, we will be able to pay it back next year, because next year we will have 2 mills, and we're going to make it in a month again we're going to pay with all the people back, and we're going to make even more money, and we have 2 mills running, we are making even more money. Now the corn law doesn't come, and we are not able to buy cheap corn, and the second mill just stands there empty. Now we have also a reason for unemployment. Now we're having a second mill standing there, but they can't employ people because they don't have corn. No, they don't hire people, and because they don't have corn, they can't produce anything. Because they can't produce anything, they can't sell anything. Now we have no money, and they can't pay for people also. And it was a crash, so the people had things which I don't know how it happened, but it happened more than existed or something. I don't understand all this. But and so many people could not find work. They explain nothing of this. So in the second mill, no one was working because they couldn't get that corn, and the first mill was, let's say, also built of. Let's just postpone the problem where the first problem actually started. The second mill was also by just the stock markets and was also made on the assumption that there will come corn, something like that. So the mass unemployment came. It is all what they say. Many people could not find work. The effects of a depression, it's just called the Great Depression, that's the name, the Great Depression. The effects of the depression of the 1930s were felt differently in different parts of UK. So in some areas more severe, this Great Depression, but many people did not find work, and in others less severe. The traditional heavy industries such as shipbuilding were badly affected, but new industries including the automobile and aviation industry developed. I'm pretty sure half of people don't know what the aviation industry is. That is airplanes. Aviation is airplanes. So some industries like the shipbuilding industry, which had here Richard now, Eichenbach King and Brunel was part of the shipbuilding industry. And we know also that the Bessemer process, whatever it is, helped to make the shipbuilding and railway process in a large scale. So shipbuilding was strongly affected, so if people were working in shipbuilding, harbors and ports where ships were built, then they could not find work. They were badly affected. Other industries for automobile and aviation industry developed. So in some towns there was a big firm where ships were built, in a harbor town. And now the people in that town could not work. Thousands, in such a shipbuilding fabric in the 1930s, thousands of people worked. Basically half a town was working, or it was dependent on how half of the town was involved in that one firm, basically. And in other areas, there was a big automobile or airplane firm, and there the people could work. I don't know what point we want to make that there was a difference in different parts. Let's look if it was for anything important that there were different effects differently in the UK. But it's always, whenever there's something like that, not everyone is the same affected. And I don't think they are explaining that for a reason. As prices generally fell, those in work had more money to spend. Yes, the prices fell because many people had basically no money. They had no work and they could not buy anything, and nobody can demand that much for a bread because so the prices fell. But they did not fall enough so that the people actually could buy enough, so it was still the Great Depression. As prices generally fell, those in work had more money to spend. So the people who could work in an automobile or aviation industry, they had enough money to buy the things which were now and grow cheaper. But the people who had basically now work and now money, they had still not enough money to buy the things. But I still don't know what the point is we want to make with saying that different parts of the country are differently affected. That is always the case. As prices generally fell, those in work had more money to spend. Car ownership doubled from 1 million to 2 million between 1930 and 1939. So in 1930, 1 million people had a car. And in 1939, 2 million. Which is a double. So it's still less of a small portion of the whole country, 2 million, whether it's 1 million or 2 million, but it's doubled. That's a big difference. In addition, many new houses were built. Yes, they started to build. Many houses were built. It was also a time of cultural blossoming. We don't want to make any point of telling us that. It was also a time of cultural blossoming. So they mean that the culture blossomed, such as it did in the Elizabethan period with Shakespeare and so on. I don't know if we should go on or do this training. With writers such as Graham Greene and Evelyn Vaughan, they were prominent. So people like Graham Greene or Evelyn Vaughan wrote books, and the culture was blossoming in Britain. The economist John Maynard Keynes published influential new theories of economics. They are just giving one single sentence to it in the whole book. I don't think we will ever talk again about John Maynard Keynes. Should they tell us something? I know what it should tell us. New theories about economics, so new ideas. Hey, we should not make it again that thing which happened in 1929 with a big stock market crash. That happens not again. Like let's say in 2008 or 2009 or something. So John Maynard Keynes published influential new theories of economics. The BBC started radio broadcasting in 1922. We're going to ask that. It's such an easy question. And began the world's first regular television service in 1936. So the BBC started to do radio in 1922, and the first regular television service. It was the first. So the BBC started the world's first regular television service in 1936. We will go through all that again. They will ask me that it's so easy to understand, and such a simple question without great context or anything to understand for that, and everyone knows what it means. Most people, there are always exceptions. And now we're doing understanding. We participated in it at your own risk, and at the end we will just go over it again if we even have time. So nothing, if you like, you could skip to the next part. We're having no we don't, yes we do. We're having the hands next to us with flat hands. And now we are doing the magician, and we're bringing the hands to the inside and to the outside. And we're having 3 rules. The first rule is stopping immediately as soon as we feel pain. And the second rule is wait we going only as fast as we can go with a little bit of effort. And the third rule is wait we are not overdoing it. So let's say that was enough. Now to the pancake flipper, flat hands against next to us, and we bring the hands up. And again now. And bring them up. down, and the last time, hands up and down. We just want to tell us that the shipping industry suffered and other industries developed, but there was a change in the whole country, how it worked. Cars became more important, and airplanes and ships less important for the whole country. They don't want to tell us that, we don't know whether they want to tell us that, but that is the thing they want to describe us. We just don't know whether they want to describe that to us. So we're just going with its very oversimplified explanation, which leads to something completely different. The hands out, we're doing materials in the morning. We're bringing the hands, the flat hands down, and up, and again down, and up. And the last time, up the hands, and down. And now we're doing the cautious big bang. We're placing the fingertips of one hand on top of fingernails of the other hand. We're pressing a little, and we are opening, and we are closing. And closing, and now we're switching. The other side presses onto the fingers, and we're opening, and closing. And last time. And now, we're having no exercise left. We're just relaxing the extensions and shoulders. We're having a straight arm, we're making a little bend, and we're going for moderate pressure of the middle part of the lower arm. And on the other side. And that was just training. We're doing 3 minutes of a fire. In 1913, there was the idea of Home Rule. Home Rule Bill was brought to the Parliament, but the First World War broke out and the decisions of Ireland were postponed. Irish nationalists made in 1916, so in the middle of the First World War, the Easter Rising. The leaders of it were executed. But one has to also mention that around 3-4, if I'm right about it, but also 300-400 people had died in this Easter Uprising. So it was not a peaceful demonstration. Hundreds of people had died in it. So the leaders of this uprising were executed under military law. When the guerrilla war followed and in 1921, a peace treaty was made, and in 1922 Ireland became 2 countries. The northern part stayed in the United Kingdom, and the southern part became the Irish Free State, and then the Republic of Ireland in 1949. And then a period of time called the Trouble followed, and in that a terror campaign was done in Northern Ireland and elsewhere by people who wished for full Irish independence against those wishing to remain loyal to the British government. Something like that. Then the interwar period, the 1920s, were basically a blossoming period. Living conditions got better, houses were built, but in 1929 the Great Depression started, and there followed mass unemployment, and some industries like the shipping industry were hard affected. Other industries like the automobile industry thrived. At the beginning of the decade, 1 million people, and at the end 2 million people had a car, for example. And then people like Graham Greene and Evelyn Vaughan wrote books which are prominent, so there was a cultural blossoming. Happened way more than a bit. Now we have a little bit more to culture. I said that this is a very rich culture, and they basically say nothing about it. And also new theories about economics were developed. And the BBC, so the British Broadcasting Company or something like that, started radios in 1922, or started radio broadcasts, yes it's plural, radio broadcasts in 1922, and they began the world's first regular television service in 1936. So, they don't say if it was the world's first radio broadcast. So BBC made radio broadcasts in 1922, and the world's first regular television service in 1936. This is the end of the interwar period, and with that we're ending the interwar period, and we go into the war period, the Second World War. So we'll continue the next part with the Second World War. I thank you very much, and